Don't give up on me, yeah. Don't give up on me, yeah.
All right, we made it. Welcome to another Tom Talk Live. I really didn't know if this one was going to happen, to be honest. So last week I had some stuff come up. I wasn't able to do the live stream like I wanted to. And then I had it all set for today, rescheduled. I'm like, all right, no matter what, I'm going live, making it happen. And then our internet goes out. It went out early this morning. Well, about mid-morning. I guess it wasn't early morning, but it went out about mid-morning and was out all day. And I guess it was like a statewide or a big region of the state was had an outage for TEC. That's the user that we have for our internet. And I was just like, man, is it ever going to come back on? And I even had to like leave the house to work today because I have to use the internet for work. And then like came back. And I just didn't think it was going to happen. And then finally it came back on and I'm rushing to get ready. So I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants a little bit this evening. And so I might miss a few things or mess up a few things. But it is good to have a few of you here with me. I appreciate that. So we got Josh here. Good to see you, man. We have Tyra. Hello. And we got Ho here with us. Appreciate you being here. And I'm just hoping this all goes well, you know, because like I said, I'm just kind of like scrambling last minute. Thankfully, I had some things already planned out from when I was going to do it last week, but this should be a good one. I'm excited for this one. I think there's some good information here, so I appreciate you guys being with me. I decided to go back to streaming both to Facebook and YouTube. I was trying to get everybody to come over to YouTube, but I think nobody wants to leave the platform they're already on, which I get. That makes sense. So. I think moving forward, I'm going to stream to both. But the thing about Facebook is it doesn't keep the video. So once the live stream's done, it keeps it for about 30 days, and then it automatically deletes it. And so that's why I'm also going to be putting them on YouTube, so you can always catch any of the replays anything that you might have missed or would like to watch again, you can always find it over on my YouTube channel. So it's the same name, Tom Talk Live, and you can find it over there. And I'll put the link in the bio or something, or in the comments here on Facebook, so you guys can check it out if you want to. And I'm gonna try to post some other content over there as well. Anyway, so let's get on with our episode. So in this episode of Tom Talk Live, we are going to be talking about how to never fail again. And I know that sounds like clickbait. That sounds like something I just put to get you guys interested, but it's really true, right? The idea of never failing again is real, because what it is a mindset shift. And I know that term gets used a lot as well, and I've used it quite a bit, but it makes such a difference, because the way that we perceive things is our reality. I'll say that again. The way that we perceive things is our reality. And so how we view it, how we choose to frame things up, the experiences we have, the approach we take, it makes all the difference in the world, especially when it comes to the negative stuff, right? And so failure is one of those things. We don't like to feel it. We don't like to experience it, so much so that we don't even try things that we think we're going to fail at. And that's really what we're going to be getting into today. So I want to share a little bit about a failure of mine, something, because I was trying to think, I need an example, I need something to share. And so for me, I got into education several years back, and started in adult education, really loved it and was enjoying it. And in order to get my teaching license, I had to teach in the K-12 system. They wouldn't let me do it through adult education. So I went over and taught 9th and 10th grade English. And it was not for me. I'm just going to put it that way. It was not for me. It was stressful. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. I was ill prepared, and just every day felt like chaos. I had nothing but inner turmoil going on every single day that I went in. And that's not to say that, anything wrong with that school or the students. It really was just me, because there were teachers in there that were thriving, that were doing great. And so I realized it was me, and so that first year I left after about 2 months, right? I quit after 2 months. I was like, I can't do this. It's just not for me. And really just felt like a failure and regretted it. And tried to even get my job back, but it was too late. They had already found another teacher. And so the next year came, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it again. And I went back for more, right? And did another year, and I stuck with it that time. But after that, I was just like, I can't do this. I thought I could get the hang of it. I thought if I gave it a shot, stuck with it. But I really just felt like a failure after that. I felt like, man, I can't do this. And left and went back to adult education. Thankfully, I had an opening for a position and moved into that. But for a long time, I kind of carried that experience with me of failure, right? And it kind of weighed heavy on me until finally I realized that it really just taught me something. It was not a fun experience, but I learned something through it, something valuable. And that's what I want to kind of show you guys through this episode, through this content that we're going to be talking about. And so really what it comes down to is this idea that there is no failure, only outcomes, right? There are no failures, only outcomes. And so what that means is just that, right? Instead of seeing it as a failure, right, you're seeing it as an outcome. Information. I'm getting information. And in fact, that the information is very valuable, especially when it comes to something not going how you planned it to go. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a minute. But I wanted to share a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Can never go wrong with a good Marcus Aurelius quote, right? If you're quoting a Roman emperor, then you can't go wrong with that, right? I think. I don't know. But he said this. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." I'll read that to you again. The impediment to action advances action. what stands in the way becomes the way. And it's that second kind of part of it that I really want us to focus in on. What stands in the way becomes the way, right? What's in the way becomes the way. And at first that seems strange, right? Like how can what's in the way be the way, right? It's keeping me from going where I want to go. How can it be the way I want to go? Excuse me. And so what we see through this and what Marcus Aurelius is trying to get us to see is that it is those setbacks that teach us so much more, that allow us to grow in ways that we need to grow in order to move forward. That if we never had those failures, right, those quote unquote failures, then we never would get the necessary experience and knowledge that we need to truly get to where we want to go. And indeed, we might not even end up going where we thought we wanted to go. Those experiences might change and shape that into an even better place. And I'm sure you can probably relate to this. If you're willing to share anything, please put it in the comments of maybe something that you've experienced where at first it just seemed like this failure, but then you realized and learned something through it, and it ended up shaping where you ended up going. And that was true for me with the teaching, right? So for me, it showed me, and sometimes this is valuable, to know what you don't want, right? Can be even more valuable than knowing what you do want sometimes, right? Knowing that, okay, this is not for me. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. I'm going to let others do it, that they're gifted at this, and they can take those positions, and I'm going to move into something else, right? It's time for me to move on into something else. And that's what I did. And so helping to kind of change my mindset around that really helped me to be able to first let go of some of the burden of that, right? That feeling of failure, that feeling like I let people down, and realize that I learned something through it and I grew because of it. And now I can do even better things, right? I can move into even greater things for me, right? And so think about that for yourself. Think about, maybe, is there a failure or something you're viewing as a failure in your life, something you're viewing as a failure that maybe needs to change as far as how you're seeing it? And what are the ways that it can become the way? What are the ways that you're growing through that experience to get to the other side and be even stronger, or have a better clarity of what you do want in your life? It's a good reflection to have just for a moment. Think about that. We do learn more from the things that don't go as planned than the things that go smoothly. I'm going to give you a couple examples of that here in a second. But I want to talk about the real enemy. The real problem that failure creates for us is not the failure itself, it's the fear of failure, right? It's the fear of failure that stops us from trying in the first place. And this is what we really need to address this concept of failure about, because the real enemy is the fear of failure. It's not actual failure, right? We learn through failure, like we just talked about, but it's that fear of failing that keeps us from even going for it in the first place, right? So I want you to imagine for a moment, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail, right? If you knew absolutely for certain, no way, that what you were doing, what you were attempting was going to fail, what would you try? What would you do? Sky's the limit, right? I mean, think big. What could I do? Like, what would I try if I knew that I couldn't fail? That would be the time to be bold, right? That would be the time to like really try something out there. Because so often we kind of manage our expectations. We manage what we try. We don't want to go too big. We don't want to reach too far because we're afraid of failure. And so we never try. Or maybe we just kind of settle for something much lower, something much more easily attainable. We think, I can at least get this. I'm not going to try for that up here because that's too risky, that I might fail, but I can reach for this down here and maybe I can get that. And so we settle for less than what we truly want because we're afraid of what failure could create for us. So I want you to think about that for a moment. That's another good reflection. What are the things that you would try, that you would reach for if you knew that you couldn't fail, right? realize that fear, not failure itself, is what's holding you back. It's just fear. It's just fear of what would happen if I tried it and it didn't work out. And the thing is, that's going to happen, right? You're going to try things and you are going to fail at it, right? It's not going to go as planned. But if we shift our mindset and we see this is not failure, this is just an outcome. This is just information that I can now use to either change direction or in the next attempt, do even better. And we think of this, a perfect example of this in science, right? I mean, that's what the scientific method is. It's like trying a bunch of different stuff, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, right? And kind of going through different trials and different tests to try out your hypothesis. And you learn just as much through things not working as you do as things that do work, right? I'm going to get to some of my comments here. Angela says, I always view losing a job or not getting a job as failure. Yes. Yes. So, and I think that's natural, right? It's natural that we would feel that way. There's a job you really want to get. I've certainly had my fair share of that happening where I really went for something and it didn't work out. And so think for a moment, how could you reframe that, right? How could you reframe that in a way to see it, that it's not failure, but rather you're getting experience, you're learning, and you're going to use that to your advantage next time, right? What would those things be? I can't tell you what that is. You have to kind of discover that for yourself. But if you start to change the way that you view it, then it's going to be empowering, not defeating, right? We need to turn failure into something that empowers us, emboldens us, instead of something that defeats us. Because again, it's all how we view it, right? Our perception is everything. Our perception is our reality. And we have control over our perception, right? To a degree, maybe not ultimate control over our perception, but we do to a great degree have some power over the way that we perceive things. And so, in a sense, we have some control over our reality because the way we perceive our reality is really what we're experiencing, right? Andrea Ann, so good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Wait for perfection. Yes. Waiting for perfection. And so it's those go hand in hand, right? Right? Because we want it to be perfect, because if it's perfect, then it can't fail. If it's perfect, then surely it will succeed. And there's obviously a lot of logical flaws to that, because just because we think it's perfect does not mean it's going to succeed. And there could be times that we wait and we work on it and work on it and work on it to try to make it perfect, and it still doesn't get the outcome that we were hoping for. And so that's part of the trap of perfectionism, right? Is that we spend way longer on something than we need to, and it doesn't always necessarily increase our chances of having the outcome that we want. And perfectionism, I think there is fear there too. There's fear of it not being good enough. There's fear of failure kind of wrapped up in that whole perfectionism thing. Please send me a YouTube link for this video. Yeah, absolutely. I will put the link in there so you can have that as well. Andreanne says it's still avoiding. Yes. And it's avoiding, right? That's ultimately what's happening, is instead of facing it, instead of trying it, instead of moving forward, we're thinking, oh, well, I got to make it just right. It's got to be perfect. And then I can move forward with that. So absolutely. It is avoiding for sure. So yeah, the real enemy, let's go back to that concept. The real enemy is the fear of failure, not failure itself. So if we learn to let go of that fear, right? If we learn to see failure as just an outcome, as just information that we can then use, then that allows us to turn setbacks into stepping stones, right? So now we're seeing these setbacks, right? I'm kind of relabeling it. Instead of failure, we're going to be talking about them as setbacks, right? Because it's something that didn't go how we planned. We thought, or we were hoping at least for a particular outcome. We were hoping to get that job, or we were hoping that, this presentation would change, our position, or we thought that we would win the game, or we thought whatever it is, right, that we were hoping for, the outcome we were hoping for, we didn't get. It didn't go that way. And so I was hoping, in my example, I was hoping to be like a really great teacher. That's what I wanted. That's the whole purpose. Every teacher wants to be a great teacher, right? Nobody goes into that profession wanting to be terrible at it. And so I wanted to be a really good teacher, and I wasn't. And so to me, I saw that as a failure instead of seeing it as a setback. And what we do is we turn setbacks into stepping stones. So instead of it being something that's holding me back, we see that it's the very thing that's allowing me to move forward, because that's what a stepping stone is, right? It's a good place to step as you move forward. It's the next step down the path. And so when we start to see setbacks as that, right, as the thing that's moving us forward, that's exactly what Marcus Aurelius was saying, right? What's in the way is the way. Then we are able to realize, like, hey, this is actually valuable information, right? Like, I should be actually happy. I should be grateful for this extra information. Like, yeah, I'm bummed out. And I don't want to minimize, right? Because I know that there's some things that we go through that are truly, upsetting, right? I get that. So I'm not minimizing the emotion that comes with that. But once we're able to kind of work through the emotional side of it, then we can actually truly be grateful for what we're learning as a way to move forward. And so we're really missing out if we don't take the time to reflect and learn something from those setbacks. We're essentially taking that stepping stone and casting it aside and saying, I don't need this, right? I don't need this thing that's going to help me move forward. I listened to a presenter not long ago, and he had a quote, one thing I really liked that stuck with me. He said, I never waste a mistake. I never waste a mistake. And I think he's saying exactly what we're saying here, that mistakes, setbacks, failures, whatever you're going to call it, right? You don't want to waste it because it's an opportunity to learn something. It's an opportunity to move forward. So again, think about those setbacks, those mistakes, those failures in your life. How are you learning from them? What are you learning from them? And how is that going to move you forward? So I want to suggest you do three things, right? First, reflect. Take time to think, what happened? What did I expect to happen? What did I hope would happen? And then what actually happened, right? So taking that time of reflection is really important. And then adapting, right? So you're thinking, what can I do differently next time, right? What path am I going to take? What option am I going to choose? How I'm going to create this next time around? And then move forward, right? Actually don't allow that fear to keep you from trying again. Because that's what happens sometimes. We experience failure and all of the negative emotions that go with it. And the next time an opportunity comes up for us to try again, we think, I don't want to do that. I remember what happened last time. I did not like that experience. It did not make me feel good. And if history repeats itself, right, it didn't go well before, it's probably not going to go well again. We kind of create this narrative in our head that, like, oh, I failed last time, I'm going to fail again. I'm just a big failure. And so we never even try it. We never even attempt it. And this really almost happened to me. There was a position that I applied for that I was excited about, and I thought, I have a really good chance at getting this, and did an interview and felt good about the interview. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And then I didn't get the job. And I was upset, right? I was really bummed out. And then another job opportunity came up with this same organization, and I almost didn't apply for it, right? I was kind of like, I'm not going through that again. They didn't want me last time. They're not going to want me this time. Why would I put myself through that? Why would I put myself out there and give them the opportunity to hurt me again? But I had a couple of good people that encouraged me to go for it, and so I did, and I ended up getting the job, and it was an awesome job. And so I'm so glad that I didn't allow that fear stop me, and I almost did, right? But if it hadn't been for the encouragement of a couple of people that were close to me, then I probably wouldn't have done that, and I would have missed out on a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. So reflect about what happened, what you expected, and maybe why things went the way they did, right? Kind of do like an analysis. And then adapt, right? What did I learn from this? What is it teaching me that I can do differently? And then finally move forward. Don't let the fear, the negative emotions keep you from being able to try something again. And again, we learn more from those times, actually, right? You're really missing out if you don't take the time to learn from your mistakes, because truly, we learn more from them. When I was teaching math, right, for example, the students learned so much more from the mistakes that they made and the problems they got incorrect than the ones that they got correct. Because if you get the problem correct, you know what we do? We just move on to the next one. We're like, all right, you got that one. You're good. Let's move on to this one. But the ones that you get incorrect, where the student would get incorrect, then we're like, okay, let's figure out, let's dissect it. Let's figure out where you went wrong, what step. And so we'd go through every step, see, okay, you did this part right, you did this part right, but here's where you messed up. You should have done this instead, right? So the ones that they would get incorrect, we would actually take the time to pull it apart and to really learn where they had made a mistake. Where the ones they got correct, we didn't spend the time. Maybe we should have, but we didn't spend the time to dissect it and to figure out, well, how did you get this right? Because usually if you get something right, that's the indicator that, oh, you know this. So you don't spend the time on it. So we do end up learning more from our mistakes than from our successes, from the things that didn't go according to plan, than from the things that went smoothly. And I think this is true for games that we play too. Like, so I play a strategy game called Magic the Gathering, and it's kind of a tabletop card playing game, and a lot of strategy, very complicated game. And I find myself not reviewing the games that I won, but the ones that I lost, right? I'll kind of play back those games that I lost in my mind and saying, yeah, I should have done this here, and I should have done that differently, and this play was a mistake, but if I had done this, and next time this happens, then I'll know I should do this, right? I spend way more time analyzing and going over the games that I lost than the games that I won. The games that I won, I'm like, oh, I feel good about that. That's great. And then I just move on. But it's those ones that I lost that kind of like eat at me a little bit. And I really want to figure out, what could I have done to turn in this game around that would have brought me a victory? And so I think that attitude, right, that idea of like, hey, this is an opportunity for growth. I shouldn't view this as a negative thing. I should view this as an opportunity for me to really learn something valuable, because I'm getting real world information from this, right? I'm getting actual information that I can now use and turn to my advantage going forward. So never waste a mistake, right? Take the time to reflect, adapt, and move forward. I appreciate how active you guys are. I've been missing this. I think this is, my wife told me, she was like, you should probably go back to streaming on Facebook too. I'm like, all right, I guess. And yeah, this is obviously what I should have been doing all along, because you guys are way more active here. So I appreciate that. Believe me, you are teaching now and I'm learning. That's great. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're here. Ashley says, what if you have always been told you won't ever make it, that your way to hold on, let me read this correct. What if you have always been told you won't ever make it, that you're way too stupid, so for years you just tell yourself not to even try? Okay, so that is not good. I'm sorry you've been told that. That is not true, right? And ultimately, you have to be the one to believe that you do have something to offer, right? That you do have the ability to learn from things and move forward. No one else can do that for you, right? But you can do that. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what others think, right? They can think whatever they want because they don't truly know you. They don't truly know what you're capable of, even if it's a family member, right? Even if it's somebody that you've lived your whole life around, they don't truly know everything within you. And so it's an opportunity for you, not just to prove them wrong, but to show yourself that you can do this, right? And so I would encourage you to, continue to learn from any mistake you've made, learn from those opportunities, and think about, what do I really want to do moving forward? And I think a lot of times with some of the clients that I work with in coaching, a lot of this same stuff comes up, right? And we all deal with it. I think it's important for us to, for a minute, just acknowledge we all deal with this stuff, right? All of us. We all go through these feelings of feeling stupid, feeling like we can't do anything, feeling like a failure, right? That's a very common thing. And so we all have to learn to kind of work through that and come out stronger on the other side. And so, yeah, I would encourage you to do that. You have indeed known me since I was a boy. That is true. Yep, that is true. And I think everything is still moving smoothly. I'm happy about that. I was worried something was going to go awry, but I did it anyway, right? I had to really teach myself and take my own advice through this and be like, hey, I'm going to go live even if it's a mess, because I'm going to do it and I'm going to learn something from it, even if it doesn't go how I expected. But it's been going pretty well, so I appreciate you guys for showing up and being here with me. So we got one last piece to this, which is living beyond success and failure. Living beyond success and failure. And this is kind of where ultimately we want to go. This idea that we're not so much caught up in specific outcomes. We're not so caught up in, oh, it's got to go this way, or just everything's going to fall apart. Where we're really seeing every attempt, whether it is successful or not, as information, right? It's simply an outcome. It's simply something that I can learn from, that I can grow from, that I can become stronger through, and that I can move forward even better than I did the first time, right? So that's what it means to live beyond success and failure, right? So instead of labeling it, instead of thinking, oh, I failed, or oh, I was successful, right? We just think, okay, that happened, and maybe it didn't go how I wanted, maybe it did, but I can learn something through this, right? So using every experience, everything that we go through, seeing it as a way to learn, as a way to grow. And so that frees us to be bolder, to be more creative, to be more resilient, to even be more vulnerable, to allow ourselves to put ourselves out there, to try things that we never thought we would try before, and really go for it. One of the things that I've been trying to do more of just in my own life is I deal with this a lot, where I won't do something if I feel like, oh, that might be embarrassing if I did that. And I hold myself back in a lot of ways because I don't want to be seen as silly, or I don't want to be seen as vulnerable. And so I don't try things that might put myself out there too much. And I've been trying to do this thing where when I start to feel that, right, when I notice myself kind of coming up against that feeling of like, oh, you don't want to do that, I push myself to do it anyway. I say, okay, that's the very thing that I need to do. Whatever that thing is that I've been pushing back on, right? That some part of me is pushing back on, that's the very thing that I need to do. And I push myself to do it. And it allows me to grow in ways that I couldn't before, because now I'm breaking that barrier, right? I'm breaking beyond that barrier of like, oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can. And it doesn't even matter what the outcome is, right? I think that's ultimately where this leads, where I'm not so caught up in the expectation of what the outcome is, because I know that I'm going to learn something through the process of it. And so that even mitigates a lot of those negative feelings that we have when something doesn't go our way, because we're so invested. We want it to work out so badly. We've worked so hard at it and we really wanted this outcome. I understand that. But when we get to this point where we can kind of let go of those expectations, we can kind of say, you know what? Whatever happens is going to happen. I did what I could do. I did my best. And now it's out of my control, right? Now it's going to happen however it was meant to happen. But I can learn from it. I can grow from it. And that really changes so much of how we approach not just different things, but our whole life, right? This is like a game changer. When we really start to see it this way, it really changes so many different things. Noah, you got quite the comment here. I appreciate you being on. It's good to see you, my friend. Let me see if I can get through this. One could say that living beyond success and failure is the actualization, the end goal. I like that. Redefining failure, deleting the ideology that has been taught. Hold on. Put it back up. It has a timer, it goes off automatically. But as a consequence of a choice made, with it comes no negativity, but opportunity and growth. One can only benefit from the traditional idea of failure. No, I'm gonna have to dissect that a bit because that's a lot of good stuff in there. I like what you said at the beginning, right? Living beyond success and failure is the actualization, the end goal. So yeah, getting to that point, that is a goal itself, right? Getting to that point where I'm not so attached to the outcome, where I'm simply growing. Like it's such a cliche thing to say, but it is true, right? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about learning and growing, and the journey of it is the point. It's not so much about the end where we're trying to get, about the destination, right? So that is the point, right? That actualization of success and failure not being or living beyond that is the goal itself. I think I'm understanding you right. If I'm not, I apologize. But yeah, there is so much ideology, I think, wrapped up in that. Like you said, there's a lot of things that we have to unlearn. I was talking to a good friend about that recently, about this idea of we grow up and we're taught so many things, and so many things are kind of just naturally absorbed just through being in the culture that we're in. And then we get to a certain point where we're like, hey, this isn't serving me anymore. Like, this isn't helping me. And so we have to unlearn some things. We have to kind of analyze and say, look, it's not healthy for me to continue having this particular ideology, this particular way of viewing the world. And guess what? We have the ability to change that. We have the ability to be, you know what? I reject that. And instead, I am going to choose to view it this way. Because again, it goes back to our perception. Our perception is our reality. How we choose to perceive things is our reality in a very real sense. And this really, I kind of had this thought that blew my mind that, we think about what is reality. Reality is experienced through what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we feel, what we touch, right? So all those senses are five senses. I don't think I labeled them right. But the five senses, that's the input, right? That's the way that we take in information. But we don't just experience those senses, right? It's processed through our brain. Our brain processes all that input, right? And our perception then is what we experience, right? Our brain making sense of all the sound and light and sensations, right? Our brain processes all that and then presents us with, hey, this is what you're experiencing. But it's not untouched, right? Our brain colors it through our past experiences and just through who we are as people, right? It gives it a certain, I don't know how else to say it, but it's not unfiltered, right? And so because of that, right, what we're actually experiencing is our perception of reality, not reality itself. And like I said before, we have the ability to change our perception. We have some control over that. So are we going to start using our ability to alter our perception to change our true reality that we're experiencing? And that's what we're doing here. That's what this is about with redefining what failure is. And so thank you so much for joining me. I really was so happy with the way this one went. And I didn't think it was going to go great because it was like a last minute rush, but it turned out great. And I appreciate you guys showing up. Ashley says, I have to get off. Yeah, thank you so much for showing up, Ashley. That's great. And we'll be doing more of these. So please do come back again. Okay, be led less by outcome, more by the journey, growth, experience itself. Yeah, I love that. Also love mentioning of the five senses. Not sure if it was a Bertrand Russell reference, but I'm here for it. All right. Yeah, I did he say something like that? It wasn't a Bertrand Russell quote, but know a little about him, but I don't recall any of his particular quotes. I'll have to look him up and see what he said about this. But I would be interested to learn more if you have some references, Noah, or you have some maybe things that you're thinking of. We'll have to connect and I'd love to learn from you also. Howard, thank you for coming. And I'm going to close it out. I did want to leave just with an offer. So if you've been kind of going through this and dealing with your own feelings of failure and struggling with that kind of stuff, and maybe you want some help with that, right? Sometimes it really is helpful to get kind of an external viewpoint on something, because we tend to get kind of caught up in our own thought process. We kind of get in these loops of thought where we're kind of trapped and can't really move beyond it. And so I want to offer you an opportunity of coaching, which is basically your way of exploring what you really want and then seeing what's getting in the way. And if it is something like this, then we can definitely deal with that. So that would be my gift to you. If you're interested in that, just reach out to me and just through Messenger, and we'll be able to set that up. But thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great Thursday night, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.